had the fortune of working in the cutting edge technology world. So it changes. Your customer generally changes faster than you can think of. So you should never lose beat. Correct. It's all about customers. Like I used to think that that's just a statement that greats mention.
Hi guys, welcome to Alumni Stories. My name is Abhishek Bagalkot. I'm from class of 2013. I'm also an office bearer for the Alumni Association. I'm the General Secretary of the ISB Alumni Association. And Alumni Stories is a video interview series where we are going to interview alumni and so that you get to know them better. Today I'm talking to Nidhi Khator from class of 2010. And we will be getting to know her better, her ISB journey, post-ISB journey, and her journey toward entrepreneurship. Hi, Nidhi.
Hi Abhishek. Good to meet you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing very well. Yeah, so my 1 year at ISB, I think one of the educations that I got was to appreciate the background of people with such high diversity. There were people from IIT, there were people from chartered accounting, there were people from law, and there were people also from media. And I was like a hardcore engineer. I had no business experience before ISB. So that really broadens your perspective on what is professionally possible in the universe, actually.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Great. So the 1 year at ISB, you said you were involved in a lot of initiatives and stuff like that. And how was post-ISB life for you?
So post ISB, as I had dreamed, I got into product management, building a product in digital marketing space from scratch.
Wow. So product and digital marketing, like the hottest, you don't work in the non-hot areas at all.
I had the fortune of working in the cutting edge technology world, again, based on as luck would have it, got to work in digital marketing when it was really very, very new and fresh and hot.
Nice. Looks like you're ahead of time, which is something that we'll discuss in the future. So, and then you said, and then post that you got into product management for digital marketing. This was in India. This was outside of India.
It was a company headquartered in New York, but they were doing product development in India. Again, that's a model that a lot of Bay Area companies are emulating today. Doing all their product development in India and sort of launching a product for US. So that's but that was something that was still unheard of. That how can you have a product manager completely remote? So it was a new setup for us.
And what do you think about it now? Do you think it's a good idea to have product managers who are completely remote?
So at that point, there was some hindrance because of which, because you were not so close to your customers, I had to travel a lot to US and New York. Like just doing weekly trips to New York just to talk to some customers or be in some customer meetings. But in the post-COVID area, I would say it's not that much of a hindrance because most of the people are pretty comfortable doing meetings on Zoom. Like even marketing folks who are opposed to doing anything or taking any decision on phone. Right.
But it's probably something that you only have to face in the beginning. Because once you start understanding your customers, you develop a mental map and you can kind of operate remotely as well, you think?
Actually, no. I would say that as a product manager, you need to be always very close to your customer. You cannot just take anything as an assumption or take anything on the face value also. You have to do your research. You have to test out few things. You have to A/B test your features. You have to make sure that you're still on the upbeat with the customer because customer changes faster than most of the... so it changes. Your customer generally changes faster than you can think of. So you should never lose beat with your customer. So that is always required.
And you would recommend this exposure to customer be very face-to-face and in-person. Is that what you would recommend?
Not face-to-face necessarily anymore, but it should be based on what your target segment feels like. So some of the people are more technology savvy or they are in the markets which are more technology savvy. So they understand a lot of things on the face value or on the phone. But sometimes when you're trying to crack a new market, like in India, trying to explain, let's say, AI on the phone to a business that you're selling AI to, it might be a little bit of a challenge because there's no vocabulary that you have built with your customer which can take you much farther on a phone call than on a face-to-face. So I wouldn't say one thing works or the other. In my experience, it's totally based on the customer that you're selling to or the customer that you're talking to.
Right. Like all good MBA answers, it depends. Right. So tell me, how did product management change you? What was your experience as a product manager? How did that impact you? And I know that you said that a lot of growth happened mentally as well, in terms of how you approach business and how you approach profession during your product management years. So
Yeah.
why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So for me, being a technologist at heart, it was always that technology or cutting edge technology sort of excites me much more than any other thing like solving a business problem.
Right.
So that's where I think I was wrong, which is what learning I have learned over the years in my product management career, that you have to put the business problem first. Technology always comes second. Technology is a great enabler, but you cannot start off with technology. So that was the learning that I had learned, and just a product management in today's world. As a career is a place where you get to do things from scratch. You learn all aspects of a business. So you have to talk to sales to make sure that your product is selling the way you are expecting that to. You're talking to customer support to make sure that your customer are happy. You are talking to engineers on a day-to-day basis that we are using the right technology which will help your product scale much further in the future. So you are at the beat of all these different cross-functional things that it makes you feel like a mini CEO. However, in a lot of companies, it's not actually you don't have that much power, but you are at the beat, and that the actual day-to-day experience is like you're truly running up a company.
Correct.
So that's why I think it gave me confidence to think about entrepreneurship. That's why those first 2 years of my product management career were very, very key in forming that seed that, you know what, I want to do this on my own.
And slowly you got exposed to various parts of business and you started thinking that, why can't I do this as an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And what was the thought process during that phase where you started considering entrepreneurship?
So basically, when I started thinking about entrepreneurship, it was like, okay, I want to do entrepreneurship, but exactly what? What to build, how to build it. And that's where the fundamentals were right there because of the ISB education. But exactly what I was building or how I was building it is what sort of started playing at my mind. And that's what sort of were the reason why I got into a lot of early stage companies as an
Nice.
just to get that learning as to
Right.
how the business models are evolving at a very early stage for me to be able to do that on my own.
Right. I think that's very key because, in many late stage companies, a product manager typically takes care of a part of a part of a part.
Yeah.
For example, you are just responsible for, say, search. Search is a big area for a large product, no doubt. But then the preliminary hypothesis of what value you're producing for your customer is already proven. And the product manager who is in that phase of proving that hypothesis, that's where the real entrepreneurial exposure happens.
Exposure
isn't it?
happens, yeah.
Right.
When you are trying to formulate exactly what problem you're going to solve for the
Correct.
customer.
So
It's
building
very
a value hypothesis for your customer,
Yeah.
at that stage, if you become a product manager, then your entrepreneurial exposure is a lot more.
Is a lot more, yeah.
Right.
You feel like an entrepreneur because you are the only product manager at the company, and you are the one driving what the MVP is going to look like, what your first product feature would be, which customer you should target. So you
How
have
are you going to
inputs.
make money?
How are you going to make money? What the pricing of the product would be? So you're doing so much, and that's the reason why I say that you feel like a mini CEO because
Right.
there is no set job description or job guideline in a early stage startup
Right.
for a product manager also.
Right. The only job description is make yourself useful. Yeah. So interesting. So why don't you talk a little bit about, so post your couple of years as a product manager, I think you made your first attempt to become an entrepreneur post that. How was that? Was that an accident or?
Yeah. So I landed in Silicon Valley due to some personal reasons, and the moment I landed there, I was like, I'm at the heart of where the start, all the
Right. All the stories,
entrepreneurship
media
or all the
stories.
stories happen. So why not give it an attempt right now?
Right.
So that's why I jumped into product entrepreneurship and started, had an idea. I started formulating a business around it. I started looking for the founding team.
Right.
And because of my prior experience in the Valley, I knew few folks.
Right.
So I started going around networking, trying to put that
While
founding
this was
team
while you were
together.
already working, or
No, I took my
Some time
attempt
off.
completely. Yeah, I took the time off to actually try this with all my heart and with 100% dedication.
Interesting.
So started putting the founding team together and starting talking to people, like started doing customer validation. So the idea that I was trying out was AI based email summarization tool for senior managers. So the idea was that for senior managers, getting hundreds and hundreds of emails, processing them on a day-to-day basis, and keeping your, because they have short attention span, they don't.
You said you took some time off,
Yeah.
and you started doing customer validation.
Yeah.
And you also said your idea was that email summarization for
Yeah.
senior executives.
Right.
Right.
So I landed in Valley and I started looking at like this is the area where all the media stories happen, all the entrepreneurship happens. So this is probably the best place for me to start my business.
Right.
And again, being technologist at heart, I started with a very technology focused idea of doing AI based email summarization tool for senior managers. The problem statement that I was trying to solve for is that senior managers get hundreds of emails. They don't have the time to process all. So AI can make that job easier and more succinct for them.
Right.
So that's where I started with, I had like the founding team together. I had a AI ML expert with a prototype ready. And that's when I started doing the customer research.
Right.
I started talking to senior management, CEOs, CTOs in the Valley or all across US. And that's when I started talking to the actual doing customer validation interviews. That's when I realized that I'm hitting this problem. Maybe the problem is either too early in the game or it's something that senior managers don't find that much value in.
Right.
So that's what came out of the customer
And
interviews.
which year was this?
This is 2003. So it is pre all AI ML.
2013, you mean?
2013, sorry.
Right,
Yes.
right.
2013. So it was all pre AI ML craze.
Right.
So I think that's another reason it could be ahead of its time. So it was not something that people were just assume that AI ML can take care of.
Right.
One
Yeah.
of the managers actually said to me in an interview saying that, you know what, I don't trust software to take care of what is important for me or not.
Yeah, very interesting. See, one of the problems of doing a startup in terms of building an innovative startup is to work on an idea that is logically valuable and you're convinced that it's valuable, but convincing your customers that it can generate value, especially in the early stage, because the product is not yet ready, customers have not yet proven them, you have not yet had proven customers and stuff like that.
Right.
So during that time, it's kind of hard to explain to your target market what is the value of this product going to be.
Right, and I think that's one of the missteps I did in my first entrepreneurial adventure is that I thought that it's all about how I can convince the target segment as to whether they should buy my product or not.
Yes.
I think what I learned from that first experience was very valuable in the fact that I was trying to retrofit a technology idea that I had onto a customer segment's problems.
Right.
Problem did exist.
Right.
That I could validate. And the technology also was probably the right solution, but maybe the way I was retrofitting or I was trying to fit them together was probably not right.
Understood.
But we could have pivot We could have done a pivot and then maybe moved on to something which could have worked. But we unfortunately ran out of the money that I had initially put in to the business idea. And that's when I had to go back to a corporate paying job.
Right. No, very interesting, and it's good that you're sharing this. Couple of things that for example, a lot of people look at Nike as being a very successful company in terms of how well they have done their marketing. But what people don't understand or appreciate is the size of market for sports and adventure gear has grown astronomically from the 1970s. And in the 1970s, Nike was a specialist in a very small market and they proved themselves. But the market grew like crazy, which actually helped the companies grow as well. So, there is a very famous venture capitalist, Don, I forget his second name. He's the guy who started Sequoia Capital, Don Valentine. So he speaks about there are no great companies, there are just great markets.
Great markets.
Right? So that's an interesting thing, that sometimes it's not just the product or your company, it's also the size of the market and the timing at which you're present, and stuff like that, where you've proven yourself and then the market has actually grown. So nice that we spoke about that particular topic. So you said that you finished your first attempt as an entrepreneur and then you went back to
corporate Japan.
And this was again in the US.
In the US, yes. I
Okay.
started a job there working at a company called BitTorrent. I think everyone knows BitTorrent.
Yeah.
And I started handling their
Man,
ad
so you
business.
worked in like always the cutting edge. You never work in standard applications at all. But sorry, yeah, that's very lucky for you.
I think it's either lucky or my profile, because I'm a very early stage
Right.
venture kind of person.
Right.
And my
You
profile
search
is like
for
that.
the new
yeah.
ideas.
Or the new idea search me.
Right. But how did you make that adjustment from an entrepreneur to working somewhere? That's a difficult adjustment for a lot of people, you know. So was that psychologically hard, or did you just take it in your stride?
It was a little bit disappointing that I had to quit my entrepreneurial journey that soon. But
How
I
many
think
months was it, or a year?
almost close to an year.
Okay.
So just going back to the job, I was a little bit disappointed that I had to quit my entrepreneurial adventure, but it was sort of circumstances, and I've always been okay with taking my life in stride. That going with the circumstances that the cards that you're dealt with. So I did, and fortunately, I went to a company which was still had that startup culture and still very, very trying to solve a problem which wasn't really that well established in the market. So I had a lot of interesting stuff to do and trying to solve the problems that existed in the company in establishing an ad ecosystem for BitTorrent.
Right.
So it was still a very challenging and a very interesting job for me. So that's why I think it sort of softened the blow
Right.
of going back to a job.
Nice. That's important, because a lot of times people forget that failure as an entrepreneur will also bring you new opportunities. It's not the end of the road.
It's not in the
But psychologically, it's hard to actually make that switch and say that I am going to move on and then find greener pastures in the future. But it's great that you actually did take that route. And BitTorrent was also product management? Right.
BitTorrent, as I said, I was doing the ad product management, building an ad ecosystem for BitTorrent app, which is used globally for over 100 million people.
Right.
So establishing that deep infrastructure.
Right.
So.
Right. Understood. And so how long did you work for BitTorrent?
Close to 3-4 years.
3-4 years. And then what happened next?
So after BitTorrent, again, I wanted to dip my toe into the water and get into lead gen. So I
Get into entrepreneurship again, you mean?
I wanted to dip my toe again in the water and get into entrepreneurship. So I did, but this time it was not my idea. I joined the founding team. And this guy, I knew him professionally from my previous company, and I was very close to him personally. So we did this attempt, and he was trying to create a B2B lead gen company for as a product which can solve the problem of creating a marketplace across the world and solve for lead gen in America.
Right.
So joined the team as a product manager. I did the initial research with customer research and initial product research, competitor research, and then put together the first roadmap and first product specs,
Right.
and help him build it.
So, a couple of points I wanted to make. Looks like B2B lead gen is like a standard, consistent theme across
Yeah.
your career. You've been working with it right from the beginning of your career till even currently, and also looks like product is a constant theme. It has been a constant theme in your career, and then you have been making these multiple attempts towards being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So these three themes seem like very consistent all through your career.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. So again, technology, product, and B2B lead gen or digital marketing in general
Right.
has been what most of my career has been about.
Right.
So it just makes sense that I work in that area and sort of amplify it a little bit further.
Right.
And product management, as I said, it just still excites me because you're doing everything.
Right.
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 It still excites me. That's why.
Right, right.
So-
And what was different in your first attempt versus your second attempt towards entrepreneurship? What were the changes that you made? What were the lessons that you learned, and how were you different the second time you tried?
So the first misstep, as I said, do not put technology ahead of the customers. So that's the second. That's the first thing that we did right in the second attempt, is trying to come up with the doing customer interviews first, trying to determine exactly what works in terms of for the customers, what problem are we solving, what features would customer require, and designing the MVP accordingly. So that was the first misstep that we corrected in this game.
Right. So even though you are working in a technology startup, a lot of work is not just building the technology, but is around customers.
Is around customers,
And
yeah.
understanding them and validating your hypothesis or trying new hypotheses for various business problems, creating value, pricing, maybe a feature and stuff like that.
Correct. It's all about customers. Like
Right.
I used to think that that's just a statement that greats mention. But over the years of my own experience and my own failed attempts, I've learned that customer is the key.
Yeah.
And it's not about that. I mean, there's a famous statement by Steve Jobs saying that customer probably does not know anything.
Right.
But I mean, for the greats like Steve Jobs who look of like hundreds of years ahead. I'm not like that, but I think for most of the time when you're building an idea and when you're building an incremental improvement on the idea, then talking to customers and just understanding what problem matters to them more
Right.
actually is the key in getting the right business model, getting the right pricing, and something that can really work for your customers.
Right.
Because eventually you have to go out in the market and sell it to the same people.
Right.
So if you don't have the same beat, same vocabulary, same problem statement or the same pain point as they describe it, then probably you won't succeed.
Right. Yeah, and this came up in a discussion yesterday about, Steve Jobs saying that the customer does not know anything, and the finer aspect, if we can, break it down. I think one of the persons was suggesting that the customer may not know to invent a solution for their problem. And it is your job to invent the solution, but it's not your job to invent the problem.
Correct.
Because the customer knows the problem better than you. So you interview the customer or understand the customer from the problem space, but the solution space, you can become more inventive and you can propose your own solutions and stuff
Right.
like that.
You're right. And pricing also. So pricing is a very key aspect especially when you're doing B2B SaaS, for example. So eventually customers may have a problem, but they might not be willing to pay for it. Or they might not have the budget to pay for it today. So again, do you want to build for something that you might or might not have budget for 5 years down the line?
In the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in spite of being a visionary, everybody is constrained by cash flow. Everybody is constrained by the realities of commercializing their technology. And that's why commercializing becomes important.
Yeah. Especially if you're bootstrapping and
Right.
you're trying to do this in steps.
Right.
And
Right.
you cannot.
Interesting. So how long did this attempt, how long did you attempt this?
So I wouldn't say this was sort of a failed attempt, but this was something that I did for a while.
Right.
I was involved with the company, and then I had to step away from personal reasons due to some personal health reasons. I stepped away from the company, and now I'm getting back into the same company and trying to take that idea forward and create something like earlier we did that for US. Now we are trying to do that for India.
India.
Yeah.
So you are now in India. You moved from the US to India now. I think it's been what, a year and a half or?
All little bit over an year.
Yeah.
So I had to move to India, and then that's when I started thinking that entrepreneurship journey makes sense for me in
Right.
India. I am from India. I
Right.
have why don't I attempt it here? Because everywhere I see so much potential in terms of entrepreneurship in India itself.
Right.
India, you can do so much in terms of bringing new technology or solving the business problems that exist very, very exclusively to India.
Right.
So you have to really come up with creative solutions though,
Right.
because there are few challenges of doing business in India. One is, will the customer pay for something?
Right.
Will the customer see the value in it?
Right.
Can you is the customer forward thinking enough that they will attempt a solution
Or
which looks
invest
like,
in a solution.
or invest in a solution which looks like 10 or 15 years ahead
Right.
of the game?
Right.
So those are the challenges that I think every entrepreneur in India deals with. And I think lastly, a problem of hiring good talent, which is something which is easily solvable by funding raise. So if you raise enough funding, then you can get the right talent to
Right.
do your attempt.
Yeah.
But if you're bootstrapping, then finding good talent in India to actually be able to fulfill your vision is also a key hurdle that I've heard so many other fellow entrepreneurs sort of give up their entrepreneurial journey in India just because of that reason.
Because they're not able to find great talent.
Great talent, or they are not able to, or they are priced out of the market in terms of hiring great talent.
Yeah. So hiring is a big topic, but I'm really convinced that India is actually a hotbed for entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
And I was living in London for 5 years, and I have an exposure to that market. I've never lived in the Valley though, which is the most prolific startup capital of the world. But living in Bangalore, I feel that just the sheer number of people who want to do great technology and great products and great stuff, even if we are 10 times as successful as any other geography, we'll still overtake them. Because just the sheer number of people and the hunger in people to do new things in new ways and do better for themselves and for people around them is so strong that I feel over time, India and especially Bangalore can become one of the biggest startup centers, according to me.
Absolutely. And I always say that in India, I think the advantage that you have is that your dollar goes way further.
Right.
If you get investments and all, it goes way further, and your runway is much more
Correct.
clearer. You have longer runway for you to attempt few things, and then obviously there are enough potential and enough business solutions that you can come up with to solve problems exclusive to India. Yeah.
Nice. So now you're looking at B2B lead gen specific for India, specifically at India, and you're looking at solving these problems for large companies, small companies. What are the kinds of companies that you're trying to attempt to solve this problem for?
So, as I said, I'm sort of thinking right now, further 15 years down the line, India is going to become productified, and you're going to have a lot of B2B SaaS companies building products for India. Right now, India is a hotbed of building B2B SaaS companies, but selling in US. So they are building in India, but they're selling for in US. So I'm thinking 15 years down the line, this is definitely going to change. And
Right.
that's why it excites me to be in this place where I'm trying to build a solution for companies that are trying to attempt to sell to companies in India and build for India, and taking India to that next level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And as an entrepreneur myself who sells to other businesses, I can really appreciate how challenging this problem is in terms of being able to generate leads consistently within a given budget so that your business can actually move forward. So thank you for attempting to solve those problems for us entrepreneurs. And I wish you all the best. I think this is a very, very interesting space. So what are you looking at, like in terms of your current entrepreneurship journey? Are you looking to raise funds? Are you looking to acquire customers? What stage are you in your current business?
So I'm at a very nascent stage where we are trying to validate the framework that we have come up with to solve this problem in India. and sort of getting all the small blocks working independently. And then as a next attempt, we will have that working together as a product. So right now we're just attempting different blocks for different customers, as I'll talk about a little bit in my general framework that we want to attempt in India.
Nice. Great. So I wish you all the best, and I wish you all the success for your current role as entrepreneur, and all the very best. And congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you for showing up. Thank you.
Thanks.